Good morning slash afternoon slash evening. Let's get one thing straight. Aging is not a tragedy, it's a privilege. If you've made it this far, you've earned something rare. Perspective. You've spent decades giving, building, fixing, explaining. Now it's time to shift the focus to yourself and to embrace the kind of silence that isn't emptiness but power. Silence is often misunderstood. People think it means defeat, retreat, or disinterest. But here's the truth. Silence is clarity. Silence is wisdom. Silence is the refusal to be dragged into every debate, to explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. It's knowing that peace is not won through noise, but through understanding when to walk away. And boundaries, let's talk about that. You have spent years saying yes when you wanted to say no. You've allowed people to take more than they gave, to demand more than they appreciated. But now is your time. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors that only open to those who respect your space. Stop explaining, stop justifying, just be. And joy, oh, how we complicate joy. We chase it, attach it to things, people, achievements. But joy is an inside job. It's in the quiet mornings, the books you finally have time to read, the music you never stop loving. Joy is in doing what makes you feel alive without seeking approval. Because at this stage, approval is irrelevant. And then there's letting go, not just of clutter and old belongings, but of expectations, regrets, and people who drain your energy. You don't owe anyone the old version of yourself. You are allowed to evolve, to change, to become softer where you were once rigid and stronger where you were once afraid. So observe, listen more than you speak. Watch the world without feeling the need to fix it. Silence is the best response to chaos, the strongest stance in a world obsessed with noise. Most of all, remember this. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. You've spent a lifetime showing up for others. Now show up for yourself. Not in whispers, not in explanations, just in quiet, confident presence. Because the loudest peace you will ever know is the one that comes when you stop explaining, start focusing, and let silence do the talking. We live in a world that equates loudness with strength. The person who speaks the most, argues the hardest, and demands attention is often seen as the most powerful. But true power, real, unshakable power, doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need validation, applause, or agreement. True power is in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. And in old age, silence is not surrender, it's a declaration. Silence is often mistaken for weakness. People assume that if you don't react, you've given up. That if you don't argue, you've lost. But silence is not about losing, it's about choosing. It's choosing peace over conflict, choosing wisdom over impulsiveness, and choosing yourself over the need to be understood by people who are not willing to listen. Think about all the years you've spent explaining yourself, justifying your choices, defending your decisions, trying to prove to others that you were right. And for what? Most of the time, people hear only what they want to hear. They interpret your words through the lens of their own experiences, biases, and emotions. So why waste your energy on battles that don't need to be fought? Silence is an act of self-preservation. It's a way of protecting your peace. When you choose silence, you are telling the world, I do not need to engage in every argument. I do not need to react to every situation. I do not need to prove my worth to anyone. Silence is also a teacher. It allows you to observe more, to understand people on a deeper level. When you stop talking and start listening, you realize that most people don't truly want a conversation, they want an audience. They don't listen to understand, they listen to respond. And in that realization, you find freedom. You stop wasting words on people who are not ready to hear them. But silence isn't just about interactions with others, it's about your own inner dialogue. When you become comfortable with silence, you stop filling the void with unnecessary noise. You stop overanalyzing, overthinking, and replaying old conversations in your head. You let things go. You let them be. And perhaps the most powerful thing about silence is that it makes people uncomfortable. In a world that thrives on noise, your quiet confidence speaks louder than words. Your silence forces people to reflect. It creates space for truth to rise to the surface. It demands respect without ever having to ask for it. So, as you grow older, embrace silence as your greatest strength. Do not feel the need to explain your choices. Do not engage in meaningless debates. Do not seek to be understood by those who refuse to see you. Instead, hold your peace, stay grounded, and let your silence carry the weight of your wisdom, because silence is not surrender. It is the highest form of power. For most of your life, you've been taught to be available to say yes when you wanted to say no, to stretch yourself thin for the comfort of others, to put everyone's needs ahead of your own. You were told that this was kindness, this was love, this was what it meant to be a good parent, a good spouse, a good friend. But as you grow older, you begin to realize something. Boundaries are not just necessary, they are the greatest act of self-respect you can give yourself. Setting boundaries is not about pushing people away. It is about defining the space in which you can thrive. It is about recognizing that your time, energy, and peace are valuable and should not be given away freely to those who do not appreciate them. When you set boundaries, you are not being selfish. You are protecting yourself from exhaustion, from resentment, from the slow erosion of your own well-being. For years, you may have felt obligated to be everything to everyone, to pick up the phone even when you were exhausted, to say yes to favors that drained you, to tolerate disrespect because you wanted to keep the peace. But at what cost? How many nights have you gone to bed feeling depleted? How many times have you sacrificed your own needs to keep others comfortable? And how many times did you feel unseen, unappreciated, or taken for granted? Boundaries are the answer to that exhaustion. They are not walls that shut people out. They are doors that you control. Doors that you open only for those who bring respect, love, and kindness into your life. A boundary is simply this: I will not allow my peace to be disturbed. I will not give my energy to those who do not value it. I will not explain myself to those who do not listen. And here's the truth. People who truly love and respect you will honor your boundaries. They will understand that your time is precious. They will not guilt you for taking care of yourself. It is only those who benefited from your lack of boundaries who will be upset when you start enforcing them. Let them be upset. Their reaction is not your responsibility. There is an incredible freedom that comes with saying, I will not tolerate this. It is the freedom of reclaiming your life. It is the relief of no longer feeling obligated to attend every argument you're invited to. It is the peace that comes from knowing that you are no longer responsible for carrying the weight of others at the expense of yourself. And don't be afraid to disappoint people. You are not here to live up to the expectations of others. You are not here to constantly explain your choices or justify why you need rest, why you need space, why you need peace. You have given enough. Now is your time to protect what remains. Boundaries are not just rules. They are an act of self-love. They are a declaration that you matter, that your feelings, your energy, and your time are just as important as anyone else's, that you deserve peace and you will not apologize for seeking it. So as you step into this stage of life, set your boundaries with confidence, hold them with grace, and remember, every time you say no to something that drains you, you are saying yes to yourself. For so much of our lives, we are taught to believe that joy is something we must chase, that is tied to achievements, relationships, possessions, or the approval of others. We are conditioned to think, I'll be happy when when I get that promotion, when my children succeed, when I have enough money, when people recognize my efforts, when everything in my life is perfectly in place. But here's the truth. Joy is not something you find out there. It's not waiting at the end of a milestone or buried in someone else's validation. Joy is an inside job. It is something you cultivate, something you choose, something you carry with you, regardless of what's happening in the outside world. Think about how much time you've spent looking for joy in external things. Maybe you thought you'd be happy once you built a family, only to realize that family comes with its own struggles and heartbreaks. Maybe you believed joy would come with financial stability, only to find that money can provide comfort but not true fulfillment. Maybe you poured yourself into relationships, expecting them to fill the empty spaces inside you, only to learn that another person can complement your joy, but they can never create it for you. The biggest mistake we make is tying our happiness to things we cannot control. People will disappoint you, circumstances will change, life will throw you curveballs. If your joy depends on others, on conditions, on perfection, then it will always be fragile, always at risk of being taken away. But when joy comes from within, it is unshakable. It is yours, no matter what happens around you. So how do you cultivate this inner joy? First, learn to be present. So much of our suffering comes from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. But joy lives in the now. It's in the warmth of the sun on your skin, in the laughter of a child, in the quiet of a morning with your coffee, in the simple pleasure of a good book or a song that stirs your soul. When you stop searching for joy in grand moments and start finding it in the small everyday ones, you realize it was never missing. You just weren't paying attention. Second, let go of the idea that joy has to be earned. You do not need permission to be happy. You do not have to wait until everything is perfect. Joy is not something you must deserve. It's something you can access at any time. It's in your gratitude, in your mindset, in your willingness to embrace what is instead of longing for what could be. Third, stop outsourcing your joy to other people. If your happiness depends on how others treat you, you will always be at their mercy. People are flawed, inconsistent, unpredictable. If you give them the power to dictate your happiness, you also give them the power to take it away. Instead, build a life where your peace is not negotiable, where your happiness is self-sustaining. And finally, redefine what joy means to you. Maybe when you were younger, you thought joy meant success, status, or being admired. But as you grow older, joy becomes simpler. It's about contentment, about knowing who you are and being at peace with it. It's about the freedom to live life on your own terms without chasing approval, without proving anything to anyone. When you realize that joy is an inside job, life changes. You stop waiting for happiness to arrive. You stop expecting people or circumstances to complete you. You stop believing that joy is somewhere out there and start discovering it right here, right now. And you start expecting it right here, right now. And the best part, once you find that joy within yourself, nothing and no one can take it away. If there's one truth that becomes clearer with age, it's this: you cannot move forward while holding on to what weighs you down. Growth is impossible when you are carrying burdens that no longer serve you. And yet, letting go is one of the hardest things we ever have to do. We hold on to so much in life: old wounds, past regrets, relationships that have run their course, expectations that were never met, versions of ourselves that we've outgrown. We cling to these things, sometimes out of habit, sometimes out of fear, sometimes because we believe that letting go means losing a part of ourselves. But the opposite is true. Letting go is not about loss. It's about making space. It's about creating room for new experiences, new wisdom, new peace. It's about unburdening yourself so you can walk lighter and live freer. So what does letting go really mean? Letting go of the past. The past has a way of anchoring us, of keeping us tangled in things we can no longer change. We replay mistakes in our heads, wondering what we could have done differently. We dwell on moments of hurt, reopening wounds that should have healed. But here's the truth. No amount of reliving the past will change it. No amount of regret will undo what has already been done. What you can change is how much power you give to those memories. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means refusing to let the past define you. It means forgiving yourself for the things you didn't know then, the mistakes you made, the opportunities you missed. It means understanding that you did the best you could with what you knew at the time, and that is enough. Letting go of people who no longer align with you. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Some people come to teach you, to challenge you, to accompany you for a season, and then the season changes. But instead of accepting this natural evolution, we often hold on. We stay in relationships that drain us. We maintain friendships out of obligation rather than genuine connection. We keep people in our lives simply because they've always been there. But not all connections are meant to last a lifetime, and that's okay. Letting go of relationships that no longer bring you peace is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of self-respect. It is understanding that you do not have to hold on to people who bring stress, negativity, or indifference into your life. It is knowing that you are allowed to choose peace over proximity, quality over history. And yes, letting go of people can be painful. It can feel like grieving. But sometimes the greatest act of love for yourself and for others is to release them with grace and gratitude, allowing both of you to grow in new directions. Letting go of expectations, one of the biggest sources of disappointment in life, comes from expectations. Expectations of how things should have been, how people should have treated us, how life should have unfolded. But life rarely follows the script we imagine. People don't always behave the way we hope. Circumstances don't always align the way we planned. And if we hold on too tightly to these expectations, we set ourselves up for suffering. Letting go means embracing life as it is, not as we wish it to be. It means accepting people for who they are, not who we think they should be. It means surrendering to the reality that some things will never make sense, some answers will never come, and some endings will never be neatly wrapped in closure. When we release expectations, we make room for peace. We stop fighting against what is and start appreciating what can be. We open ourselves up to new possibilities, new joys, and new ways of seeing the world, letting go of who you used to be. Perhaps the most difficult thing to let go of is an outdated version of yourself. The person you once were, the roles you once played, the identity you once clung to. Maybe you were the caregiver, always putting others first. Maybe you were the problem solver, always stepping in to fix everything. Maybe you defined yourself by your work, your achievements, your responsibilities. But what happens when those roles shift? When your children grow up? When your career slows down, when the world no longer needs you in the way it once did. Many people struggle in this phase of life, feeling lost or uncertain. But letting go of who you used to be does not mean losing yourself. It means allowing yourself to evolve. It means embracing the freedom that comes with this stage of life. Freedom to rediscover yourself, to explore new passions, to be whoever you want to be now. You are not meant to stay the same person forever. Growth requires change, and change requires letting go, the freedom that comes with letting go. When you let go, you create space, space for joy, space for peace, space for new experiences that align with who you are now, not who you were then. Letting go is not a one-time event. It is a practice. It is a daily choice to release what no longer serves you. To trust that by letting go, you are not losing, you are making room for something better. So take a deep breath, Release the past to set down the burdens you were never meant to carry and step forward lighter, freer, and ready to grow. We live in a world that glorifies action. Society teaches us that success is tied to doing, achieving, and constantly moving forward. From the time we are young, we are encouraged to speak up, participate, voice our opinions, and make our presence known. But what if the greatest wisdom comes not from speaking, but from listening? Not from beyond words, beyond surface level interactions, and into the deeper truths of life. Observation versus reaction. For much of our lives, we are wired to react. Someone insults us, we defend ourselves. Someone challenges us, we argue back. Someone makes a decision we disagree with, we feel the need to correct them. But observation is different from reaction, and observation allows you to pause, to take in information, to understand before you respond. It creates space between stimulus and response, and in that space, wisdom is born. Think about the times when reacting quickly led to regret. The moments where if you had just stepped back and observed instead of immediately responding, the situation would have played out differently. The truth is, most conflicts are fueled not by what is said, but by how we react to what is said. When you master the art of observation, you gain control over yourself, over your emotions, over your peace. You become less impulsive and more intentional. The power of watching without judgment. One of the greatest gifts of observation is the ability to watch without immediately forming conclusions. Most people listen to respond rather than to understand. They watch with the intent to judge rather than to learn. But true observation is rooted in curiosity, not criticism. When you observe people without judgment, you start to see them as they truly are rather than as you expect them to be. You notice the small details, the way someone's eyes light up when they talk about their passions, the way another person's voice trembles when they're nervous, the way someone's energy shifts when they're hiding pain behind a smile. You become more attuned to the subtleties of human behavior, the unspoken emotions, the hidden struggles. And in doing so, you develop deeper empathy, deeper understanding, and a greater sense of connection with the world around you. Observing life as it is, not as you wish it to be so, much of our suffering comes from resisting reality. We want people to act a certain way. We want circumstances to unfold according to our expectations. We want life to fit into the picture we've created in our minds. But when you become an observer, you learn to see life as it is, not as you think it should be. Observation teaches acceptance. You begin to understand that people will be who they are regardless of how much you wish they would change. You realize that life has its own rhythm, its own timing, its own flow, and no amount of force or control can alter that. Instead of resisting, you start to allow. Instead of pushing, you start to flow. Instead of demanding, you start to appreciate what is rather than mourning what isn't. Listening more, speaking less. There is a reason we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listening is an art, and it is one of the most underappreciated skills in today's world. Most people listen just enough to formulate a response, but few people truly absorb what is being said. When you practice deep listening, you hear what people are really saying, not just their words, but their emotions, their fears, their desires. You learn that sometimes people don't need advice, they just need to be heard. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is your silence, your presence, your willingness to simply be there without offering a solution. And the same applies to yourself. When was the last time you truly listened to your own thoughts, your own heart, your own intuition? So often we drown ourselves in distractions, phones, television, endless conversations because we are afraid of silence. But in silence, we find clarity. In observation, we find truth, nature as a teacher. One of the best ways to master the art of observation is to look at nature. Watch how the trees sway in the wind without resistance. Watch how the river flows around obstacles instead of fighting against them. Watch how the seasons change effortlessly, never clinging to what was, never rushing to what's next. Nature teaches patience. It shows us that everything unfolds in its own time, that growth happens in stillness as much as in movement. A tree does not need to force itself to grow. It simply absorbs, adapts, and allows life to take its course. In the same way, when you observe without force, without resistance, without the constant need to control, you begin to experience life with greater ease, greater peace, greater wisdom. The freedom that comes with observing, when you embrace observation, you free yourself from unnecessary stress. You no longer feel the need to fix everything, to insert yourself into every conversation, to prove a point at every opportunity. You become a witness to life rather than a constant participant in its chaos. Observation brings clarity. It allows you to see situations for what they truly are rather than what your emotions make them seem in the moment. It helps you detach from drama, from conflict, from meaningless distractions. It gives you the power to walk away from negativity without feeling the need to engage. Most of all, observation brings peace. It reminds you that not everything requires your intervention. Not every battle needs to be fought, and not every moment needs to be filled with words. Sometimes the greatest wisdom, the greatest strength, and the greatest power come from simply being still, watching and allowing life to reveal its truth to you in its own time. So slow down, watch, listen, pay attention, because when you stop reacting and start observing, you begin to see life not just as it appears, but as it truly is. In a culture that constantly preaches the virtues of giving and self-sacrifice, the idea of focusing on oneself is often misunderstood. It's easy to dismiss self-focus as self-absorption or narcissism. However, true self-focus is the foundation of a life well lived. It's about acknowledging that you too deserve care, compassion, and respect. Self-focus is not an act of selfishness. It is a necessary commitment to your own well-being. Reclaiming your time and energy throughout your life, you may have spent countless hours tending to the needs of others, often at the expense of your own inner peace and happiness. Whether it was caring for family, excelling at work, or simply meeting societal expectations, you likely put your personal needs on the back burner. Now, more than ever, it's time to reclaim your time and energy. Self-focus means deliberately choosing to invest in yourself. It's about setting aside time to reflect, rejuvenate, and pursue passions that light up your spirit. When you prioritize yourself, you're not ignoring others. Rather, you're ensuring that you have the strength and vitality to contribute to the lives of others in a more genuine and meaningful way. The power of self-care. Self-care is a vital component of self-focus. It's not about indulging in fleeting pleasures, but about nurturing your mind, body, and soul. When you make self-care a priority, you build resilience, reduce stress, and create a sanctuary of calm in the midst of life's storms. This might mean establishing a daily routine that includes quiet moments of meditation, exercise, or reading. It could involve setting aside time to pursue hobbies or simply enjoying nature. By regularly dedicating time to yourself, you reinforce the truth that your well-being is a top priority and that you deserve the same kindness and attention you so freely give to others. Establishing boundaries for a healthier you, self-focus, and setting boundaries go hand in hand. You must learn to say no to the demands that drain your energy and yes to the commitments that nourish your soul. This is not about shutting others out. It's about creating a protective space where you can flourish. Boundaries are a declaration of self-respect. They signal that you value your energy and your time enough to protect them from being eroded by constant external pressures. Every time you choose to focus on your needs, you are affirming your worth. And when you honor these boundaries, you also invite those around you to respect your limits. Embracing your authentic self, a key element of self-focus is embracing your authentic self. Over the years, you may have worn many masks, playing roles that others expected of you, sacrificing parts of your identity to meet external demands. But now is the time to shed those layers and reconnect with who you truly are. This journey requires honesty and vulnerability. It means acknowledging your strengths and your weaknesses, your desires and your fears. When you focus on yourself, you allow your inner voice to guide you rather than the expectations of others. In doing so, you unlock the power to live a life that is not dictated by external validation, but is defined by your own inner compass. The ripple effect of self-focus, focusing on yourself, is not an isolated act. It has a profound ripple effect on every aspect of your life. When you nurture your own well-being, you radiate a sense of peace and confidence that naturally attracts positive relationships and opportunities. Imagine the impact of living with a clear mind and a full heart. The clarity that comes from self-reflection empowers you to make decisions that align with your true values. The confidence that emerges from self-respect inspires others to honor you for who you are, not for what you can do for them. By choosing self-focus, you not only enrich your own life, but also create a more authentic and compassionate environment for those around you. Transforming self-focus into a lifelong practice, self-focus is not a destination, it's a lifelong journey. It requires constant attention and care, much like tending to a garden. There will be seasons of growth and times when the weeds of doubt or external pressure try to take root. In those moments, remind yourself that nurturing your own spirit is the most empowering act you can undertake. Commit to daily practices that reinforce your self-worth. Reflect on your accomplishments, however small, and allow yourself moments of rest without guilt. Understand that by focusing on yourself, you are not closing yourself off from the world. You are preparing yourself to engage with it more fully, more authentically, and with greater resilience. In the final analysis, remember that self-focus is a courageous act of self-love. It's about recognizing that your needs are important and that investing in yourself is not an act of selfishness, but one of profound respect for the life you have been given. As you continue on this path, may you find the strength to prioritize your well-being, the wisdom to set healthy boundaries, and the joy that comes from truly knowing and loving yourself. As we journey through life, we begin to understand that wisdom is not found in constant action, endless talking, or seeking external validation. It is found in stillness, in observation, in the quiet power of self-awareness. In old age, focusing on yourself is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of self-preservation. It is a commitment to your own peace, your own joy, your own well-being. Silence is not surrender, it is strength. It allows you to step back, to listen deeply, to understand more than words can ever convey. Boundaries are not barriers, they are declarations of self-respect, reminders that your energy is sacred and should be protected. Letting go is not loss, it is growth. It is the recognition that in order to evolve, you must release what no longer serves you. And most importantly, joy is an inside job. It is not something you chase, it is something you cultivate from within. By mastering the art of observation, you gain clarity, peace, and a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. You begin to see that self-focus is not about isolation, but about aligning yourself with what truly matters. And when you prioritize yourself, your health, your happiness, your inner fulfillment, you do not take away from others. You actually enrich your relationships, your presence, and your ability to show up fully and authentically. So embrace this stage of life with wisdom and grace. Protect your peace. Speak less and listen more. Observe without judgment. Let go of what no longer serves you. And most of all, Focus on yourself, not because you are selfish, but because you deserve to live the rest of your life fully, freely, and unapologetically in alignment with your truest self,